used not extensive PEDs, but PEDs over the course of my life. And by you having such hands-on experience with guys like myself and tons of bodybuilders come through, can you feel the difference when you work on somebody to compare to someone who's natural, like how the muscles are?
Definitely. It's definitely denser tissue, way denser. It's harder on the hands, obviously. It doesn't have that same kind of like gum-like feel that a relaxed muscle would have on a everyday athlete or an average person. Like you guys come in, it's years of dense tissue that's been put on quickly, and that's usually why you end up with the tendon tears and that kind of stuff, because the tendons can't withstand the same force that new crazy amount of muscle can withstand. That's why you guys tear tendons faster than anybody else.
It's funny that I wasn't even going to talk about this, and since you brought that up. So over the course of years, right? And if you're going to ask my honest opinion, if I stayed totally natural my whole life and never used any testosterone, or maybe even at a certain point now, just say TRT, which would be bringing my norm levels up to like my optimal level when I was 19 or 20 years old. But through the course of years, using super physiological dosages, mixing other compounds in my personal opinion, I know and believe this is why I got hurt. I would definitely believe, and I don't have tendon ruptures. I have all mid-muscle tears, right?
Even all mid-muscle belly.
So partial. I would know, dude, when I was younger, bro, like even the beginning of my steroid years, right? My muscles were fucking like elastic, dude. Like, dude, I remember inclining 225 for reps, and I was off. Yeah. And like I used to have a real wide grip, and I never thought about getting hurt. Yeah. Yes, maybe my body was a little younger and not fucked up.
Yeah, it's partially that.
But the strength was there. It wasn't the fear of getting hurt.
Yeah.
And over time, though, even though like I'm physically stronger now, I could just feel my body so rigid. Now, in your opinion, do you feel that I'm right? And this is my question now, is like, I am so prone to injuries. Is it a combination of age or just all the years that I've done PEDs?
I think it exacerbates it, right? So I think you get on a DNA level or physiological level, genetically, certain people are just prone to injury to begin with, right? You're the kind of person who rolled your ankle a ton as a kid. You're the kind of person who pulled a muscle, pulled a hammy running sprints in track or football. And then if you get on PEDs later in life, I think you're at an increased risk of tendon tear, ligament tear, muscle tear, that kind of stuff. I think there's a component of it that's genetic, and then there's, 100% a component of it being the PEDs. Like, again, think about, what people don't understand, and I'm sure you talk about this a million times, is that the PEDs don't make you jacked. They allow you to train harder and more often, which makes you jacked. So you're recovering twice as fast as anybody else normally would. So you're laying down that tissue at a faster rate. So great, you put on 15, 20 pounds of muscle in 6 weeks, but if normally you would have put on 2 pounds of muscle, your body can adapt to that better. Your body can't adapt to this new elasticity level it has. So there's adaptations there, so you get the size. Maybe the elasticity isn't there. Definitely not in the tissue, but the tendon has not caught up at all. Tendon grows so much slower than muscle does. So you put on 15 pounds of muscle in 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 20, whatever it is, so it's way faster than you would naturally. The tendon is still as strong as it was 8 weeks ago. The muscle's 3 times as strong. So the tendon can't hack that. So
what's the reason why I have all mid-muscle tears? All my tears except my tricep were mid-muscle.
For you, you probably are the type of person who has like much stronger tendons, or MTJs, muscular tendinous juncture. You probably have stronger tendons to begin with. So then now just years of quicker muscle being put on faster than your body can adapt to it is probably resulted in the higher level of tears for you. It could also be hydration levels. Even though I know you'd probably drink a ton of water.
Now I do.
But when we first started working together, it was like, you drank coffee and that was pretty much it.
Yeah, when I started getting more injured, then I'm like, holy shit, I got to do something.
Yeah. I
stayed on top of my hydration. Then I definitely felt the difference when I started implementing like first thing in the morning, sodium, potassium, magnesium, electrolyte.
Yep.
More hydration, less injuries. But I excrete a lot of water, so I have to keep putting it back in. And a lot of times when I thought I was just drinking gallons of water, it was almost like empty water.
Yeah, just diluting the system.
Just cleaning out my system.
Everybody
muscles have to catch it.
We've been taught so long to fear salt because of blood pressure reasons and everything else that people just kind of neglect putting it back into their system. And when you sweat, a third of that is sodium. So if you're losing, you're sweating for an hour and a half for a hard training session, hitting the pads, hitting the bag, weight training, you just lost up to 3,000 milligrams of sodium for 60 minutes worth of work.
You got to put it back in.
You don't replace it. But you drink a gallon of water, you now dilute that system even more. So now you have, and you need the sodium for the sodium potassium channels, the muscle pump to get the muscle to contract. Yeah. Not just for skeletal muscle, but also smooth muscle, cardiac muscle. It's important for all muscle systems in the body to have that sodium calcium channel optimized properly. So you need sodium, calcium, potassium. You lose all that in sweat, Now nothing's firing the way it should. It's either tighter or it's not going to put the same amount of output, the force you need. So it plays a huge role. But for you, when when we first started working together, it was coffee and that was it.
Yeah,
some water here and there.
Years.
But you were just super tight, dried out. The old kind of silly saying, like your body's 80-something% water. It's probably roughly similar, more salt water than just water.
Yeah.
But that means the muscles are 80-something% water. So if you're dehydrated, that's like beef jerky trying to contract versus a nice supple piece of meat.
Good analogy for
It's
people
like,
to understand.
you're trying to stretch that piece of beef jerky for a nice deep stretch with 315 on your chest. Well, guess what? It ain't going to withstand that. It's going to pop.
Yeah, I know there's other guys, not just myself. I definitely get injured more than most people, I feel. And I think it's a combination of that. I remember, like what I was saying, like my father's really, really strong. I remember that was really strong. And I'm not a big person. Right. Technically, I'm a smaller person. I'm only 5'8", a smidge over. Mm-hmm. And the weights I used were relatively very heavy for, I think, my joint size. I think it was a combination that had the ability to grow muscle tissue pretty fast, probably relatively stronger tendons because I don't have any tendon pops. And the muscles probably because I like to explode with the weight.
Right.
I didn't know anything else, but when you lift, I never heard moving weight slow. When you push hard, you're technically lifting the weight fast.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You're pushing it as fast as you can. It just happens to move slower.
Yeah.
The explosive combination, like I would just be like, I could do one more. I could do one more. I could do another one. I have a little bit more of me. And then, because now even though I go a little heavier, and it's funny, man, like when I just did that podcast with Mike O'Hearn, even though he's a freak, obviously is one, never be another one like that.
And one, that guy. Yeah.
Right? That when I started he goes, when I move a weight, I try to flex the muscle. Not ideally flex the muscle, but move it. No one flexes it like this.
Yeah.
You move in a slow, controlled manner, right? You feel the muscles grab slowly. As you get older, you got to definitely change up shit.
Right.
And one of the things I actually read in Muscle Fitness a while ago when it stuck on Men's Health, like one of the first 1 or 2 rules was as you get older to keep training with weights, forget exploding with weight. That's over. I'm like, I always remember seeing that. And I'm like,
Well, there's a couple of reasons for that, right? Like you have your type 2 and your type 1 muscle fibers. Type 2, you're explosive. Type 1, you're slow, more endurance level. But from, I think it's age, and don't quote me on the actual age, but around 30-ish, from age 30 on, you lose 2% of those type 2 fibers every year compounded until you're in the dirt. So type 2 is your explosive muscle fiber. If you're losing 2% compounded every year from 30-something on, well, now you're in your 40s, you're trying to explode again. Well, you just don't have those type 2 fibers there to withstand the pressure anymore.
Now, are you talking about someone not on TRT, just the baseline?
Just in general, you lose 2% per year or so from like age 30-ish, somewhere in there, until you're done.
Can you hold on to that?
And that's the thing, was where the weight training early is where it's huge. You get weight training when you're in your teens, you build that muscle, that base early, you'll lose less of it, or you're not losing as much until you're 70-something years old. So you have, let's say, for argument's sake, or as an example, a pec that's 3 inches thick, because you built this since you're 18, now you're 30. Well, now you're losing 2% of those type 2 fibers over years. It's not going to be this little flaccid piece of paper when you're in your 70s. It's going to be a decent-sized muscle still. Same thing with your quads. The number one predictor of longevity is leg strength. So if you look at the 72-year-old guy who's a triathlete or even a weight trainer in some way, shape, or form, and the amount of muscle density in their quad versus the guy who's sedentary, that guy's got fatty infiltrate. Those muscles aren't even there. That guy's likely not going to be able to get up and walk, move, create that pump to get the blood flow going, whereas the guy who's got a nice muscle base will. And he probably has been doing it his whole life, and he maintained it. So he's losing a lot less. The other guy who is sedentary, naturally, through testosterone and everything else, built some muscle when he was in his teens and early 20s, but then didn't do anything to maintain it, and he lost it quickly as he got older and became feeble.
So technically, me didn't have the capacity. My legs are big, just genetically big. They're not as strong as they used to be because of life, and I don't train them that way. But that should technically be a dictator of my longevity. Is the lower half
independently is a dictator of your longevity later in life. You're a lot less likely to fall and break a hip in your 70s and 80s. You're a lot less likely to trip over a curb walking to the store. You're still going to move every day because you can. You have that muscle density there to pick you up out of a chair and move you to and from around the house versus the guy who can't get out without a walker in front of him or somebody helping him out.
Right.
And then that movement keeps your cardiovascular system going. So you get that calf pump from walking all day. You're getting all the blood sent back to your heart, pumping through your system. The heart stays good versus the guy whose legs are swollen because he hasn't moved in 4 or 5 hours,
So this is why I always tell guys, I go, how many guys you come, even into, the office, are upper body guys, right?
Everybody.
So many just upper body guys, they train legs very little because they're just focused on, how I look in a shirt. And I always say, just to really I keep everything simple for the blue collar guys. I go, that is the dumbest thing ever because you're not training half of your body. Think about what the biggest muscle groups are in your body is your glutes, your quads, your hamstrings.
Yeah.
How it
Lats
spikes.
up top are it. It's just your lats. Other than that, they're all in the lower
That's
half.
it. Right?
Yeah.
But it's all in your lower half, the majority. You're not training half your body. Forget about like the cosmetic look, but your central nervous system stimulation, metabolism. This is why, like, dude, I always say, like, and I make a joke, if I was to bring 3 things to an or 3 things, one would be like back squatting.
Yeah.
That'd be the only exercise you need a bar for or something,
If you
squat.
if you could do one, my thing is with good form is like a proper like power clean or hang clean because you're hitting like a total body workout right there. So you're getting your deadlift portion of the off the floor. You're getting your upper body for the third part of the pull. Like for me, if you're able to, the hang clean or the power clean is like one of the best things you can do if you have nothing else you can do. But yeah, especially out here on Long Island, it's Mirror Muscle Monday every day. Everybody wants to train stuff, look good on the beach. They wear the big
push day Mondays from here to California is push day
every
Monday.
day. If you can see it in the mirror, you're doing it every day. Otherwise, don't touch it.
Yeah, but the importance of just training your lower half,
Yeah, it's huge.
It's so important. I remember years ago, a friend of mine was like, why do you want big legs? I'm like, because it's the foundation of strength.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and other the fact, because you always wanted to be ripped. And I tell guys always who are like looking to be more shredded and like we're more fat, they're always like trying to do cardio. I'm like, bro, just train your legs.
Train your legs.
Do 4-5 sets of 20 rep squats, bro. That's HIIT training.
Metabolic
hard.
would just
Dude,
crush it.
spike it for the whole day.
Yeah.
And the day following to recover.
Yeah.
I
think a lot of them they don't want to be sore for their blue collar job, right? Like the guy, if he can't walk up and down the ladder lugging shingles, if he's a roofer, it's annoying. But there's ways to train without to the point where you can't move, right? You're still training the legs.
Yeah, but also this, right? We talk about adaptation, right? Just say you first start doing it. I always train 20 rep legs and sore. My body adapt to it and I will recover a little faster. I was used to doing a construction job, still going up and down ladders.
Yeah,
but
it
nothing's
takes time to adapt, right?
Yeah, you have to adapt to it, But I'm not talking about those guys. I was thinking about other people in reference who are not construction workers.
Yeah.
Who are upper body guys who want to just look good in their car.
That's most. That's everybody else. They don't want to train legs because it sucks, right? Leg day is a horrible day. Your heart rate's through the roof. You're gasping for air. You feel like you want to puke if you're doing it right? No one wants to do that. They want it easy. You want to go in there for a half hour, get their arm pump, and go home again.
I mean, I always loved leg day. I always tell guys, I'm like, and yeah, when I first started training, I didn't have the knowledge. I would just do set after set after set. And I would do, back squat, hack squats, pin loaded, this flat,
just crazy
horizontal
volume.
machine squat, which is the best leg machine ever, but it's the size of a fucking gasoline truck. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
it's huge. But that was the best leg press I ever used to do because the tension was constant through the whole movement, range of motion. But what was I saying about that?
Like just the amount of sets and reps you do. Just
Dude, I would
crazy
puke
stuff.
every leg workout.
Yeah.
Not saying that was the fucking best thing to do.
But it takes a certain individual to push himself that far.
Yeah, I liked it.
Not everybody wants to do
that.
that. Not everybody wants to go to the gym and put it to the point where they're exhausted in 45 minutes and they can't move.
I tell people, I'm like, you should be limping out of the gym on fucking true leg day.
Yeah.
That's
even like all the greats said the same thing too. Like, Ronnie Coleman, Arnold, all those guys on leg day, those guys were smoked for the whole rest of the day. Couldn't move, couldn't get in their car to go home afterwards, but that's why their legs grew the way they did.
I got to say, John, whenever I come in, right, whenever people speak to me, they're like, I could see I start to lose them because I start to go into the science a little too much. And I'm looking at their eyes. I'm like, they're not listening. I learned this over time because they'll ask me the same question I told them 3 weeks later. And then again. So I hold back a little bit now instead of pouring the knowledge in. But I'm the kind of client when I were to come in the office, I want to know everything. I ask this, I ask this.
Right.
And John teaches, and then I'm like, holy shit, bro, this guy fucking knows his shit. You and Mike.
Yeah. Mike was great
and,
colleague.
The
Mike's
one thing
my mentor still these days.
Yeah. The one thing I'm blessed for is that you guys are close.
Yeah.
I always tell people I'm like, these are the guys to go to. Like, no, I got a better guys. I'm like, whatever, right? I'm like, you have a wall of fame in there for a reason.
Yeah.
With professional athletes, etc. You walk in there's bodybuilders, athletes, college athletes, high school athletes, whatever it may be, all the time on the regular, and some gem pop. You know?
Yeah.
But people don't realize I'm like, I'm not going anywhere else. And this, what you've done with my body, how I recover, what was I leading into this with training, nutrition? Oh, that's what I was going to say. Someone sent me a DM the other day and I thought it was really funny. And I got all flack about it, which I was surprised at. Whenever you say they show food and under a microscope?
Yeah.
This was like, I thought it was a serious one. They show red meat. And he goes, this is what you see in red meat. It's like serious music, and they put on their microscope, they're angling in. All of a sudden, they go, this is what you see on. I'm waiting for microbes and shit. They show Ronnie calling the devil. Yeah, buddy. You should have saw the DMs I got about like, why do you fucking smash on vegans? I'm like, I'm not smashing on vegans. But it's just the fact that, like, bro, you will never be jacked eating fucking peas and legumes.
No.
It's a fact. You should have seen it. I was surprised, actually, at that, all the defense against vegan fucking stuff.
There's that huge push against animal products now in general, right? All the Beyond Meat stuff, all those stuff to try to get you to eat something that tastes like meat but actually isn't meat for whatever reason, environmental or whatever they're trying to push for now. But, like, where we're at from swinging from trees from a few thousand years ago, because we started eating more protein. Like, that's, our brains got bigger from protein intake, everything else because of protein intake. So, you know, we didn't evolve as a species by eating beans and nuts. Like, we evolved as a species because of red meat consumption.
Flesh.
Yeah, from, you know, wild animals, wild game, obviously. You know, there could be the argument between conventionally raised beef versus wild, that sort of stuff. Now you can get into the weeds with that. But, like, the 4 ounces of red meat, as you know, has the nutrient profile for that, for a piece of grass is through the roof, better than the amount you have to eat to equivalent of vegetarian style, right? A bowl of like rice and beans versus, or whatever it is.
All the vital micronutrients.
The amount you get from it. Now, could you be a bodybuilder and be vegan? Sure, but it takes some serious thought process, some serious discipline, a lot of supplements. It's hard to do with just regular whole food. You know, there's gonna have to be some protein shakes made from pea protein multiple times a day to get the levels up. Is this good quality protein? Debatable, but
I don't think so for this, right? So, Rich Piana, real food, right? He's right about that. Even he was a Neanderthal, but he was definitely spot on about that. I have a friend who's very, very intelligent. You know, whenever you come across somebody who's very smart, my friend's like that, very, very intelligent. And he thinks because, you know, it's hydrolyzed, broken down already, whey protein. He would only drink whey protein shakes. I was like, what are you, crazy? He goes, no, it's better absorbable protein. I go, bro, eat a fucking piece of chicken and steak. Do that all day for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
No shakes, and then you tell me. No, you're wrong. I go, please just do that. Sure enough, what do you do? He's like, bro, you were right.
Yeah.
How much more muscle, fuller, better he felt.
The macro and micronutrients you get from the flesh, or the steak or the chicken, whatever it is, versus the man-made shake. Now, it's a great supplement, but that's its name.
Supplement to real food.
To your diet.
Supplement to real food.
Place of.
Yes. You know, I'm not a vegetable guy. I'm just not.
Me neither.
I just don't love them.
No.
I eat a lot of meat and carbohydrates, and the only I'll have a green salad, and once in a while to fucking feel froggy, I'll throw some green beans in a cucumber.
Or asparagus here.
To make myself feel healthier, right? Yeah. But dude, whenever I go for blood work, all my vitamin markers are on point.
Yeah.
They should technically be fucking down below the optimal ranges because I don't eat enough vegetables, right?
Yeah.
Do I even supplement with a green drink? No. I tell people if you really want to, go ahead. And so this is really the diet. I don't eat a lot of like that type of fiber, nor do I think that type of fiber isn't enough for the volume of, you know, animal flesh I eat. So I take a fiber supplement at night to keep my gut clean or whatever. This is what I've been doing for 20-something years, and it works. My blood's great.
Yeah.
Right? I don't think vegetables are that necessary.
No, I don't think so either. And then, you know, the argument becomes like, all right, can you get the same nutrients from animal products that you would from vegetables? Sure. If you're eating nose to tail, right? You're eating some organ stuff here, you're eating that, because there's, you know, vitamin A, vitamin K in liver. There's this and that. So you can get it from elsewhere.
What's your take on all that?
Most people aren't eating
animal
liver.
Organs.
So, you know, we grew up in a culture that poo-pooed organs. You know, everywhere else, like even in the UK, they eat sweetbreads, which is, you know, it's just animal organs, just fried up. And
Hannibal Lecter, sweetbreads.
Yes, they're eating the sweetbreads. It's like, you know, the kidney and the part of the heart, or the lungs, and we're disgusted by it here. There's a big nutrient profile to those organ meats, but culturally, it's just something that we kind of like poo-poo over here. I've tried to get back into it. I can't do it. Like, liver tastes like a handful of copper pennies, no matter how you make it. I can't eat it.
Is that what it tastes like?
Yeah, to me, it's just, you know, it tastes like blood. You
Does
know,
onions help it at all?
To a degree, depending on how you do it. But I found there's a company that I get my ground beef from that mixes in like 20% organ meat to the ground beef. So I'll get my organ meat in that way. So it mixes in like heart and liver into the ground beef. So now I'm getting it that way because I can't eat it straight. I've tried. But I'm like you. I eat, it drives my wife nuts, next to no vegetables.
Let me ask you this. So,
fruit, I eat a lot of fruit, but next to no vegetables.
I eat fruit.
Yeah.
I do like fruit. Yeah. What does liver supply to your body? Exactly.
Vitamin A. I mean, super high in vitamin A, which you're not going to get from the rest of the muscle meat.
The importance of vitamin A to the body.
So I mean, it's a fat soluble vitamin like ADEK, right? Those are the ones that you can't get it from elsewhere, and it actually accumulates in the system, so you need it. So this is where it gets in the weeds for you too. Like, so vitamin A, it helps more with like protein synthesis a little bit, blood coagulation. It helps with something else to do with the red blood cells as far as oxygenation and, the hematocrit levels and transmitting oxygen elsewhere. But it's huge. You need vitamin A. You're not going to get it from any other source though. Like, you don't get vitamin A from vegetables, as far as I know. You get vitamin C from your fruit.
I'm just trying to make
it
clear for people who just try to be like, they're going to start consuming it, animal organs, but for what reason?
Well, if you're not eating as many vegetables, right? So like someone like you and I who don't eat I'm not eating a salad every day. I'm not eating Brussels sprouts as a side. I'm eating my piece of steak and a little bit of rice. I'm eating, I might, like you, I might have a salad here or there. But so if you're not getting it from other sources, the organ meat will help you get the higher level of sources. And you don't need to eat as often because of the fat soluble vitamin.
Do you think it's of utter importance though for someone like me if all my markers on my blood panel?
If when you're getting your blood panel done and your vitamin A levels are good, you're good. That's not one of the ones we're deficient in as a typical population. We're super deficient in like vitamin K, vitamin D.
I supplement that though.
Which but D you can get from egg yolk or the sun. No sunblock for 30 minutes and get some vitamin D. Get your vitamin D that way. We're all indoors in fluorescent light 12 hours a day, and we're outside. We're slathering on sunblock, which now you got to weigh out the pros and cons of that. Skin cancer or some vitamin D levels. So then how else are you going to get it?
You're not going to get skin cancer. For that little exposure into the sun.
Yeah, 20 minutes here and there, you're okay.
Yeah, for people who don't want to dive into the science too far and understand what sun can do for you, sunlight.
It's huge.
Right? Just if you're an individual who's inside all day, go step outside for 15 minutes and come out. See how much better you feel.
Mood.
Simple as that.
Well, vitamin D is a hormone. It's not a vitamin, it's a hormone. And people don't understand that. Like, it's especially D3, like it's essential for other hormone productions in the body, testosterone production, estrogen production, your body to absorb calcium to create bone density. You need vitamin D in order to do that. You get it from the most free source there is, the sun. You don't have to ingest it. Just stand outside for 20 minutes with no sunblock, as much exposure as you can get. That's not going to cause cancer. If you're out there for 6 hours with no sunblock, different story.
Right.
But 20 minutes a day, your mood changes, your metabolism changes, your bone density will be changed because now your body absorbs the calcium better. You get so much just from that 20-minute exposure. But we live in a society where we're inside all day long. The most exposure you get is in your car for the 20 minutes to and from your office, and it's on that left arm only because that's all you're getting out the door.
That's the majority of people.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I didn't like. When I worked in construction, I'd always get some sort of sun. Either was at lunch, I'd go outside. Certain days, if it was brick-ass cold out, some days I was outside, even though you are technically in the sunlight still. It doesn't matter what the temperature is. You're still getting the fucking UV, still getting the sunlight on you. But what people don't take in is how good the sun is for you. And as we were talking about like blood markers and like how your blood could go. What I was going to start talking about is like my whole life and what I got absorbed was more of the hormones and what they do to the blood, right? I'm really, really intelligent and know what I'm talking about that. As in terms of like, I became more educated as time went on with food and vitamins and what they could do for your blood and how your body can metabolize certain things. Mm-hmm. And even with the anabolics is what I'm steering this into. So I always get tons of questions and references to anabolics, and it's almost redundant, the same question over and over. I'm like, how many times am I going to fucking say this on the gram? It's not
people don't even do. You're on a text chain. It could be 3 texts earlier. Like, what was this? It was up literally 3 texts earlier. But it's even worse talking to them in person. I just had
one person DM me about acne and how do I get rid of it. And you know me, I go in depth and leave a voice message. And then I said, you have to implement an AI to a certain parameter. It could be estrogen elevation, et cetera, right? I got the question after, so how do I fix that? I was like, I fucking just told you. A certain amount of AI.
They want one thing. One tidbit, 3 words,
bro,
that's it.
Read it and fucking understand what I said. I'm not,
But that's where I've come to doing now physical therapy for 20. I've been in therapy for 20 years, right? In some facet, whether I was a strength coach at an office in the city or an aide or became the PT 10 years ago, whatever it was. I've been involved in this industry for a long time. People want something as watered down and as diluted and as quick as possible. How do I fix this? A and B. If you give them A through Z, they don't do any of it. They get lost. It's either too confusing or it's too. It gives them anxiety even. Like there's too much to do. So they want one thing. What's the one? And it's like our society. We want one pill. Can't you just fix it with a pill? Just give me one pill to fix everything. But you have to dumb it down or put it in layman's terms for everybody around so that it's 1 or 2 things they're going to do it. If you came in to see me for your shoulder, you had a labral tear, and I gave you 12 exercises, and those 12 You generally could do those and never see me again. You'd be great. You're not going to do them. It's too overwhelming. If I give you 2 or 3 things, you'll probably do those things. Now you got to come in and do the rest of it when you're here under guidance because you need the help.
I'm the once in a while client who looks at you and I go, I want to know everything on how to apply to get this better.
You're a rare breed.
And how does this happen? And what does this do?
And you come in for like our normal 20-minute session, it ends up being 45 minutes because they're chatting about it.
But everything. I like talking to you, and I know how you speak about how passionate you are. You speak about it.
I love it.
So I've learned this over time with certain clients when I start to tell them about the mechanism, why this does this with the estrogen elevation, testosterone operate, and I see them looking at me, start going.
Blank stare.
I learned how to learn that because they kept asking me the same question. Yeah. They don't want to know that. So what I do now is I dumb it down. This, that's it.
That's it. You got to
don't have to know anything else.
Like it's like 10-second sound bites on Instagram. It's the same thing with clients. A quick little thing, something that you know they're gonna like a little pearl they're gonna take and actually implement it because otherwise it's too much.
You know
and it's
what's
overwhelming.
Fucking crazy? Even guys who I advise to start taking TRT, go for blood work, I tell them everything down the road, right? And they start the process of initiating testosterone replacement. They start to feel better. Then they go, I'm fucking losing my hair. I'm holding more. I'm like, bro, those are the first top 3 side effects potentially that could happen. How could you not want to educate yourself a little bit?
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
We don't have to talk about your lipid profile to understand what an 8-lipoprotein is. We're not talking even about that.
Just acne, hair. That's it.
I was like, holy fuck. But that started to make me think. Keep it fucking super simple with them to digest it. Otherwise, you're going to lose them.
It's too much. It's too much. Because, I mean, you got to think about we're in the weeds. This is what we do, right? Health and fitness, rehab, it's all kind of a big group.
Yes.
And when we talk about nutrition, I by no means am a nutritionist. I want to make sure everybody knows that. I have a huge interest in it. I've been involved in it and I like it and it's a hobby, but I am not a nutritionist. So when I tell people anything about nutrition, I'm like, if it were me, this is what I would do. Because I can't technically give you nutrition advice. Now, as far as rehab and exercise, that's where I'm an expert. But nutrition stuff, because I think it's a big conglomerate. You can't do the rehab side of things. You can't do the strength training side of things without nutrition, without a component of nutrition. So I can educate on nutrition, but I can't give exact advice. Right. But if it were me, here's what I'd do.
I think with that also, yes, science plays a role. Super science, everything's super sciencey now, is good. And not that it's negative, but there might be too much science applied where I kind of figured out things on my own. One of my coaches, which is good advice, he's like, I think it'd be a good idea to send some clients out for like gene testing, allergies, food metabolism, insulin production, what foods affect them in a certain parameter in that way to pinpoint each individual so they're not fucking spinning the wheels. I spun the wheels and just figured it out without all that 20-something years ago. Like how my body digested white rice. If I got bloated or fat, I could tell my insulin was definitely higher because the water retention and the fat didn't come off as fast and how I felt like a little bit more lethargic as into other carbohydrates. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The volume of food. I kept it super simple. And back in the 90s, like Sean Ray made a post and most of those guys, they never counted calories, right?
Ate this, ate that.
Ate food. I knew simply that if the fat wasn't coming off fast enough, to cut my carbs down a little bit and to fill the gap with calories, just elevate the protein a little bit. Protein doesn't make you fat, or vice versa. I want to get a little bigger, go into a little bit more of a surplus, eat a little bit more of that time. Maybe I'm getting a little fat. Maybe I shouldn't eat this too late. I kind of just figured it out.
Nutrient timing versus, implementation versus.
I think there's a little bit too much science in a certain parameter, or what it does, it kind of cuts all that work down and short tracks it so they could pinpoint it a little faster.
To a degree, but to your point there, like we've gotten to a point now where everybody is trying to reinvent the wheel for social media. They want this outstanding clip. They want to sound super smart. They want to make this thing sensationalized so that people buy into it or they clickbait or buy their program or follow them. But like in the end, like, keep it simple, stupid. A lot of this is just simple basics. The basics done savagely well will out-trump any sort of insta-sexy exercise, insta-sexy rehab technique any day.
Dude, even with lifting, right?
Yeah.
You and I are relatively the same age. I'm a little bit older than you. But dude, I mean, I lifted weights when I was younger. And I see so many times, I see a kid in the gym. I know you've seen this too. They have virtually no physique. I had the same physique within 3 months of lifting weights, or I was bigger. And they're doing a tricep, cable, one arm. I'm like, bro, what are we doing?
Worried about their angles and their hand position and this and that. And
so there's this dude on Instagram, Eric Janicki. He's fucking jacked. He's huge. And listen, he shows some good shit, but he's jacked already.
Yeah.
Jacked already, right? He didn't get that way doing this one arm fucking single.
Right.
Bet you he deadlifted and did T-bar rows heavy as a motherfucker when he was 16 years old, lifted without the most perfect form to train certain muscles. He just lifted fucking weights, bro.
Just push the weight.
There's just way too much of that.
When you're that young, that's what it is. It's the basics, just done savagely well. Just do more of it. Eat more, lift more.
Yes.
Because your body can handle it when you're young. Once you get our age, I'm 43 in 2 days, right? So I can't train the way I used to. I mean, I played semi-pro rugby for 10 years. Like, I used to lift heavy. I squatted 505, deadlifted 6. So I was power cleaning 295. If I attempted half of that now, I'd break. Like, I couldn't do it. But I still lift. I
Your
still
heart
train.
wants to.
I did wants to. There's nothing more manly feeling than a behind the neck push press 295.
Yeah.
Just jacking this thing up and dropping it back down, the whole gym stopping to look at you. And then when you translate that into rugby and you're mowing some dude over because you're so powerful and explosive, but you didn't pay the price. My neck, my knee, my neck. So I'm paying the piper now, but like still train. Like you said, time under tension. There's other ways, but I built that foundation when I was younger. I was bullied as a fat kid when I was younger. I didn't want to be the fat kid anymore. I got in the gym and I just started moving heavyweight with zero knowledge, zero experience, zero anything. I knew I had to move weight. And slowly it started coming on. Physique got a little bigger. I got a little thicker, got more dense. And then you're in your 30s. Now you can tweak it with your hand positioning and your cable and this and that. When you're starting out, like, forget about all that crap. Like you said, just train.
All I did was bench, row, curl every day when I was a kid.
That's it.
No legs, and then I started training legs later.
Yeah, because the legs
when I was
suck.
in the basement in my fucking parents' house with a Joe Weider bench, but I did. I'm like, yo, I'm going out. I gotta get a pump. I'd bench heavy. You know, I did all that shit when I was younger. Just raw basics.
But yeah, basic stuff. But even to this day, like, I lift legs a lot less than I used to because I just look at a squat rack and I'll put an inch on my quads. Like, my legs grow quick. Like, I don't have to do much. I can do bodyweight Bulgarians and put 2 inches on my quads.
Like, the one thing I still have is my legs. I'm just genetically blessed. And I tell people, like, dude, what do you do for your legs? I'm like, I don't really want to tell you. Like,
I lunge here and there. I walk up the stairs.
That's the truth.
That's pretty much
I always
it,
make fun of it. I go, my upper body's a before picture, my legs are an after picture. It's the truth, though.
Yeah.
Like, my legs respond that if I really wanted to, they get fucking huge, bro. You ever see that cyclist? What's his name? He's German. He's dude.
Yes.
I was like,
His
holy
legs are like
yeah, but he can
60 inches
perform
thick.
too.
Yeah.
Right, and he's strong. So like, those are like my legs, super responsive. And I told this story before, but like when I was younger, and I'll always remember this, my upper body started to develop. I had like a little bit bigger of a Bruce Lee body at this point. I started lifting weights. Girls were checking me out. I was in like probably 9th grade. I went to the doctor, and I, for some reason, remember one of my friends was there, and my legs were thin, bro. Thin, right? Doctor goes, you could get tremendous legs. I was like, get out of here. He goes, no. He goes, I could tell by the insertions of your knees and your tendons. Dude, I started squatting, and it was literally like the pump stuck every workout. Within 1 year.
Compounded every time.
Within 1 year, bro. For like, I was in 9th grade. I was barely doing a quarter when I started to doing 225 to reps in a year. My legs just went boonk.
There's definitely something to that, what that doctor said too, is if the tendon length is a huge predictor in how big the muscle belly can be, right? So you get the guys like, even myself, my quads are huge, my calves are this big. Because like my Achilles tendon is this long. And so the muscle belly of my calf is super tiny. So can't get as big, it can't get as full as anybody else's would. I could train my calves till I'm blue in the face. They're not going to grow. They'll get a little bit bigger, maybe a little more defined, but I'm not going to have calves like yours.
It's weird.
The tendon length plays a huge role in your ability to put on muscle size.
I do like 3 sets of calves once every 2 weeks.
And just you got two chicken breasts for calves.
I almost thought about just making my legs huge just to see what would happen.
Yeah.
Like really, and just not do anything else, no boxing, no rolling, because it's not conducive for that at all. It's like I'm in between. I'm stuck in between. Keith always makes fun of you're in between worlds. You don't know whether to build or you want to box.
Yeah.
But you could see when I start going down the building lane, I always get hurt because they do not go in the same world.
No, you can't.
You know?
And maybe metabolically, like you can't be jacked and roll 5-minute rounds in jits without gassing out. Your muscle just burns too much energy. You can't be super jacked and do it. Can you get away with a round or two? Yeah, probably. But you're going to, in a 45-minute class, you have 5-6 rounds. You're not going to make it. There's no way. You're going to blow through your glycogen storage. You're going to blow through. Your oxygen levels will be depleted because those muscles are pulling all the oxygen. Like you can't be super jacked and train grappling at the same time. Yeah. You can be fit as hell. You can be shredded. Like your boy Gregor,
but your body just,
like, he's not
the
huge,
bigger
right?
you are,
it's just you use more energy.
It's just a rule of thumb. There's even the best guys, even like just say someone like Yoel Romero, his tank wasn't the best because he has so much muscle tissue.
much muscle mass.
Who was their jiu-jitsu guy? Paul Harris. These guys are so, you know what I'm talking about? He fought in the UFC.
Yeah.
And why I call it is because he would like hurt people in like these grappling matches and shows of MMA matches. He would fucking pull some fucking thing and he'd be like injure people on purpose
Yeah,
or
he's
whatever
so strong,
in a certain
like
way. Yeah,
freakishly strong.
jacked.
Yeah.
But I was to say, you have a lot of experience with pro athletes and going there, like I said before, pro athletes, pro fighters, boxers, etc. And you have experience. You've been to some of these fights and you cornered guys. You were the guy in the corner.
Yeah.
And you've been to these shows, right?
Yep.
Like some of the experience you have, because I never did a backstage or cornered anybody before. Like, what was the experience like going back there? Did you ever see anything like that people don't know that was like a crazy story?
Yeah, man. I mean, most of it is really chill. Like, you know, these guys are on TV, this persona, they're yelling, they're fighting, but in the back, like they all know each other. They've been around each other for years, whether it's on the underground circuit, whatever it is, and even just through UFC events, and like they all respect one another. Obviously, the bigger fights, there's a build up to it, and they get this hatred, so they don't want to be near each other. But the craziest stuff I saw was like, and things they don't show all the time was like the weigh-ins on the Friday. Like guys coming in just sucked out, a pound over, barely have enough energy to even get on the scale. Got to go back for another half hour, try to pull another pound. Like to see like how on TV it puts 10 pounds on, right? The camera. So even somebody who's weighing in, like I forget who the girl was that almost passed out on the scale not too long ago. Like even watching her like almost drop on the scale, she looked lean and thin, but she didn't look horrible. In person though, it was probably way scarier. Like I remember at the Garden Card 2 years ago, it was Volante's last fight. I cornered with him and watching like Chandler weigh in. You know, Chandler's already shredded. Like, where's that guy pulling 20 pounds of water weight from? I have no idea. But watching him on the scale, like just cheekbones just sucked out. And this guy's a pro. This is what he does. Like he cuts weight, he makes weight, no problem. But he looked miserable. Like it looks so much worse in person than it does
People
on TV.
probably don't understand this and why those. I remember, you know, when Belmore had the hotbed of fighters coming through there, and there was a lot of guys fighting pro. These guys, and the Gen Pop doesn't understand this. And what I realized, like the circle we're in is very, very small, and we have an understanding of water pulling, and they weigh actually X amount of pounds over on the same day or the day before. I remember going in, and Algieri was like 7 or 8 pounds over, and he was wearing his suit to sweat. He was doing some light pad work with Keith. I was like, dude, when do you got weigh? He's like, about 5 hours. I'm like, bro, I'm like, you're 7 over? He goes, I'm good.
Yeah.
People don't realize that there's an art to they pull the water out.
And it's gotten so much better over the years, too. Like, it's not the bro science it used to be 10, 15 years ago. There's more of an actual science behind it, the water loading process.
Do you know the science exactly?
I know quite a bit of it.
So what are the steps that people don't know to educate them?
The bigger thing is the water loading, right? These guys are drinking a gallon to a gallon and a half for about 5 days, about 10 days out from their competition or weigh-in, to overload the cells with water so that your body gets used to having the excess of water, so then it gets rid of a lot of excess of water. So now you start pulling the water, so they'll do about 3 or 4 days of like a gallon or plus a day, which is hard to do. Like sometimes these guys are doing 2 gallons, depending on how much over they are. And now they're down to a half a gallon for 2 days, a quarter gallon, and then no fluid for the last 3 days. But your body's still used to having that excess fluid because it doesn't adapt as quickly as we think it does. So it's still pulling that water out, the excess water. So it's easier to lose the water weight, by doing simple things like just pedaling on a bike, sitting in a sauna, sitting in the hot bath, whatever they do, just to keep pulling that water out. And it's all regulated through body temperature. These guys aren't killing themselves. They're not going out and running miles, dropping the weight. They're sitting in a hot tub. They're sitting in a hot bath. They're wrapping themselves in towels afterwards, getting their body temperature up so their body excretes the water, bring the body temperature back down so it's not dangerous, and then repeat that process. And every time they do it, they're dropping 3-4 pounds there. It's like 15, 20 minutes in like in a bath or a sauna, because you're just sweating profusely. So that last day or day or two, there's 10 pounds left to lose is nothing for them. It's just they're sitting around talking, chatting. Some of these guys, it's harder than others, depending on how lean they were to begin with. But it's gotten down to a science now where they're not as in much of a detriment. Or it's not
Correct me if I'm wrong. So aldosterone's a hormone in your body.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So what I've read, right, and how I actually know, I have some experience with it. So what I did, I tried erythropoietin for a fight, right? Just to boost my cardio. I'm heavy muscled, I would gas out. So I tried it. It worked to a certain extent. But I've read, could cause initiate thickening in the blood, et cetera. But that's only for cyclists, and only 2 died over the course of 30 years.
Yeah,
because
and
they're
it's
cycling for 3
use.
hours,
Yes.
whatever, right? I used a conservative dosage. So what I did, I overhydrated. I discovered this on accident. Drinking 2 gallons a day. 2 gallons, pissing. Your body doesn't just shut off from the pissing. You kick on a hormone that's an excretion hormone.
Right.
So now when you pull that water back, because then I was like, yo, I'm not drinking 2 gallons of water again. I stopped drinking. I went down to my normal volume that I would drink. And all of a sudden, bro, I was like,
yep. Because it was pulling all that excess water still.
I was like, holy shit, this is
a
what,
while for that aldosterone
this
to be
is
clicked.
what they do. And me being me, I fucking read even further. Like water torquing is what they named it from what I was reading.
Yeah.
And then what I learned is there's a hormone that kicks on in your body, aldosterone. It's the excretion hormone. Might be wrong about it, but I think I'm correct.
No, that's right. It makes the kidneys excrete more water.
And then I started and pissing out.
Yeah.
There's a certain time, then you stop and whatever, and then you rebound.
Yeah.
But they have that down to a science on where to fucking initiate that process.
How many
But that's
days
how they
out,
do it.
how much fluid it takes, how much it is. And
People don't realize like they
sodium.
weigh X amount and only for a very short amount of time before the
short.
weigh-in, like a day.
Remember Wade's last year in the PFL, right? He fought at 145. That kid walks around at 190 pounds almost.
I know. He's not small.
He weighs in on Thursday morning, 145 for the fight, and Friday night, whatever it is, he's 168, 172 pounds already. In a 24 hours, he puts on 30 pounds of water weight, which is crazy.
Dude, people also like on fight day, I go, they don't weigh 155, that guy. No.
No.
I go, he's like 20 to 18 pounds heavier.
Even Weidman, he weighs in for 189 for middleweight. Fight night, he's 215.
That's crazy.
He walks around at 230. Like he's a big
big.
guy. To cut down to 189 is huge. But like, fight night, they're putting on 20, 30 pounds of water weight back on.
Yeah, nobody weighs
Now,
that
the other
number.
side of this nobody knows and they don't see is that a lot of these guys from cutting their calories, cutting their fluid intake for the last 5, 6, 7 days, they can't just go jump in the back and chug water right away. They can't chug a Gatorade. They have to do it slowly. They all found out that like the first couple times they did it, they would go back and they're so thirsty, so hungry, they'll just chug. Comes right back up. The body can't handle it. They're puking it up. Certain foods they can't handle. So it's a slow reintegration process after weigh-in to get that weight back up.
Your body rejects it.
And these guys aren't allowed to do IVs. So they got to do it naturally. They got to do it through oral suspension.
What's your
oral
take
stuff.
on that, eliminating the IV drip?
I understand the reason behind it. Like they don't want them to go some random place and go get something else put in that bag. So now they're getting some sort of
That's done after testing.
Yeah. So I think they should do it themselves. Like, why don't you have your own team who's administering those saline bags to the guys after they weigh in to make sure that they're hydrated at least enough to then go off and then drink their Gatorade and their supplements, what they're going to do. But
is that the reason why they eliminated that? I wondered why. I'm like,
yeah, because
I never even thought
they don't
that,
want
like,
somebody
dripping
putting
a
some
little-
random stuff in their drip.
like a little halotestin in there, a little check drops.
A little something that won't show up on a P test.
Yeah.
Because it takes a while for your body to metabolize that. So now if you're getting your IV Friday morning and they put a little something in there, like you're even if you pee before, get a P test right before the fight, it might not show up as a metabolite just yet. So there's a way to cheat that way. But I think the way to combat that is just now you regulate yourself and do it. Administer the IV to these guys with your professionals, with your team, so that they get at least a base level hydration back up before they go off and do their own thing. Because a lot of these people, guys and girls, are coming down to like real dangerous levels of dehydration and the weight cut. So, instead of leaving it to their own devices, they go back to their room and hydrate and maybe give them a bag or two of IV, to get them to a healthy, not dangerous point, and then let them go off and do their own thing.
I got you. Yeah, for like what I was going to spin the wheels to is like for training now for these guys, right? And you have so much experience with these guys and you've trained them yourselves. Completely different what people don't realize. Lifting weights for hypertrophy and muscle building in comparison to sports specific and strength training.
Yeah.
Rep ranges, types of movements. And that's where the science is important, how it advanced. Because back in the day when even just like wrestlers and fighters, how many times have you seen like old clips of guys just like benching and doing leg press?
They're just doing bodybuilding stuff the week out before a fight. Over the years, with people in the world like Tony Ricci, who's probably one of the bigger names in like sports science and stuff like that with MMA, and there's obviously quite a few other ones, but a lot of it is dependent on where they are in their camp, right? So if they've got 20 weeks before a fight,
stages,
you can obviously do a hypertrophy phase, you can do a strength building phase, you can do your explosive power phase, but when you're in an 8-week camp before a fight, they can't be sore for pad work, they can't be sore for jits class, they can't be sore for wrestling, they can't be too sore to move the next day. So like you got to find that balance between maintaining the strength they have, maybe doing a little bit of improvisation and improving their explosive power a little bit without causing them to be too sore, without too much muscle breakdown, because they're already doing 3 training sessions a day. They can't afford to be smoked.
The importance of skill. Getting better for the fight, and it's crazy. Even like powerlifting, that's a sport in itself, and they're all very big people. But every now and then you come across a guy, and I've seen their freaks, is they're thinner guys and they're crazy strong. That has a lot to do with tendons, contractile proteins, how the muscles handle it. Now, you know, as time went on, I became more educated in capacity, muscle capacity, the capability of being able that strong. So how many times do you see bodybuilders that are not that strong?
Right.
They have big muscles, but
Big
they're butter
bellies,
muscles.
density, yeah, but they can't put the weight up.
Right.
Yeah.
So like the bigger the muscle, though, obviously it has the capability, capacity
In
to
theory,
be stronger.
on paper, right? You get a larger fiber density of a cross section of a muscle should be able to produce more force. And that's the whole idea. Even in rehab, with post surgery, trying to get that size back in the muscle after a severe atrophy from like a knee surgery or a shoulder surgery to be able to produce that force again to get back into your sport. The hack now is blood flow restriction training, so that you can do that BFR training to make your brain think you're doing more work than you are, to increase hypertrophy.
Explain a little bit more to even educate me and for the people listening.
Sure. So what you're doing with the blood flow restriction training is first, without bro knowledge and just tying a limb off like a lot of these guys are doing. They're grabbing elastic bands and tying it off and they're doing their curls. So yeah, okay, they're restricting blood, but like at what cost, right? So there's the scientific reasoning behind a lot of this is it's a certain amount of time. You don't want to leave it restricted for too long because you cause cell death for the most part. But you find out how much pressure it takes to totally occlude both artery and vein to make sure there's no blood flow going to and from. It's done, like a tourniquet, totally occlude. How much pressure does that take? Now, depending on upper or lower body, use a certain percentage of that to do your work with. So for lower body, using between 60 and 80% of the total occlusion pressure. What that does is it traps the venous blood in the limb and allows arterial blood to perfuse still, so you're still getting good nutrients, so you're not causing cellular death to any of the tissue.
Yeah, cut it off completely.
Not cut off completely, so you're still getting good oxygen, nutrient-rich blood to the area, so that you're not cutting off completely. Now, you leave it on for 20, 30, 40 minutes, you probably still do some kind of damage, but 5 to 6 minutes is kind of the range you leave it on for a particular rep range or set. Now, you're using that 60 to 80%, you're trapping the used blood in. So all that metabolic waste from your reps you're doing, so you're doing knee extensions or squats, whatever you're doing, you're trapping that metabolic waste in the muscle so that it builds up. You're getting metabolic waste, you're getting ATP waste, you're getting oxygen waste, all this stuff is building up in the muscle. So now you're doing, let's say you're doing knee extensions for after knee surgery with a 5-pound cuff weight. You're doing 30 reps to kind of prime it, and then you're doing 3 at 15 with about a 45-second rest in between. Your brain, your muscle thinks you were just like pressing 60 pounds instead of 5. So now you're using less weight. You're saving the surgical site, whether it's a patella tendon graft or if it's an Achilles rupture repair. So you're using less weight to produce the same effect heavy weight would do to induce hypertrophy early. So,
Get out of here.
So a lot of guys I got now, I got a couple jits guys just came through. I had one guy with a patella tendon
So it
repair.
initiates muscle hypertrophy.
It initiates hypertrophy with a lot less stimulus than you would normally
I should tie
need.
my fucking arms off.
Seriously.
Could help my tricep all kidding aside.
Absolutely, 100%. So with nerve damage, like in your case with
John
your
and
neck.
I have the exact same nerve damage. What is it? The C7?
Yeah, I was
C7 disc.
I'm severe herniation C4, 5, 5, 6, and 6, 7. I replaced 4, 5, and 5, 6. So C6, C7 are still barely herniated on me. I get numbness in my pinkies. I get my left side. I got like no tricep left. My pec's kind of shot all the way down. I get like drop foot in my left leg. I get all this sort of stuff. But yeah, if you're getting a nerve conduction issue due to compression from the disc, or you had surgery, whatever it is, you can bypass the neurological system to get the stimulus you need with a lot less stimulus, a lot less weight. So that's the idea behind that, is to save the joint, save the graft, save the tendon, whatever you're working on.
Even though you're not initiating any real technical tissue breakdown.
No,
with
but
weight.
the metabolic waste makes your brain think you are. So the response is now to grow with that new stimulus. So the brain is assuming that you're using 100 pounds instead of 5 or 10, or whatever the weight you're using, to save the joint. But now the muscle gets a chance to grow. So I get guys that had patella tendon repairs, quad tendon repairs, that are coming in with the injured side is 5, 6 centimeters smaller than their non-injured side. Like a huge amount of atrophy, and no real quad contraction, nothing going on there. 6 weeks after I start BFR like immediately. There's a cellular perfusion protocol you can do. It's not as intense. You're not worried about injuring anything that's been surgically repaired, and then you progress to the normal BFR training session. But I just had a guy that went back to his surgeon at the 8-week mark, and she was like, "What the fuck did you do? Like, I've never seen a guy's leg grow this fast. Like, he was this same size as uninvolved
That's when
side
you knew it worked.
in 6 to 8 weeks." This was, I had other guys in the past I knew it worked, but with this guy, it was like proofs in the pudding.
Wow.
Like, at the 8-week mark, he got the exact same size as uninvolved side. His power output is still lacking, but now that's where the hypertrophy and the power output comes in.
Right.
He has the potential to put more output
capacity
there with the larger size muscle, and that will come with the training. But normally, prior to me using blood flow restriction and other neurological re-education techniques, it would take 12 weeks, 24 weeks to see anybody get some size back in a muscle, if ever again. I've had people in the past before I used BFR that never quite got the size back. They're back to training, they're back to sports, but like it still lacks something compared to what I had before the surgery. Now with this, it's
the doctor had that response to you, like, wow, like how you said about like, what'd you do?
Yeah.
You had the same response when I tore my tricep. 8 years ago, I came in, I had surgery. I had nothing to compare it to because I never tore anything like this over my arm, or I tore the other tricep, God forbid, to compare it to and how fast it healed. I was one of the first people to start using TB 500 BPC 157.
Yep. Yeah.
So I remember I was doing the wax on, wax off shit with the towel, and I was using like a 1 pound dumbbell of it. You're like, dude, when did you have surgery? I'm like, I don't know, like 5 weeks ago or 6 weeks. You're like, holy shit, bro, you're like 3 months ahead.
Yeah.
And I remember you saying, dude, you're the second person at that time.
At that time,
who
that
came
was
in.
a couple years ago. Yeah, like
Yeah,
6, 7 years
that
ago,
was 8 years ago.
Yeah.
It was just before my son was born because I remember holding him, right, when my wife gave birth, and I had the arm thing on.
Yeah, that's
right.
right.
The apparatus.
That's right.
I just had, so it was 8 years ago.
Yeah.
So I was almost a guinea pig for myself.
Yeah.
But I had nothing to base it off. And after you said that, then I was like, wow, maybe this stuff does really work. Obviously, it does. I had nothing compared to how fast I healed. But then whenever I would pop or tweak a muscle, I would shoot TB, and I could compare it to how fast it would recover.
Right.
Now, you've seen people, obviously, some of your patients come across your table.
Since you were my number one, I've had probably dozens since then now.
Yeah.
So now you get the physiological, cellular, and physical response to the BFR and the neural re-ed, straight up chemical response with the BPC and the TB, you're seeing the same sort of results. So yourself, I had other guys that had bicep tendon repairs, a couple of guys with tricep tendon repairs. At that 3 month mark, when you're normally like you're just allowed to start doing more normal things, you guys look like you're 6 months out. So it definitely is speeding up that healing process. Now, I question whether or not it's a good thing, right? Because now you go back to the same sort of issue with like, all right, you were on steroids for 3 years and you put on a bunch of muscle. Is that viable tissue? Can you injure that quicker? I don't know. Is healing in half the time really beneficial in the long term? Are you going to re-injure something?
Go out right
don't
after.
know.
Yeah.
Is it gonna pop sooner than it would have if you just took the 6 months proper to do what you had to do to grow the way you had to grow?
Well, if they gas pedal it and not smart about it.
Right. And then now that's where you ask, hey, can I do this? Hey, and I've had every single one of you that have done it have not retore anything yet. So you're progressing the right way. So far now, eight years out, it's looking like it's a viable option. Like it's
you know what I want you to explain to people? This is very educating to people. For people who do pop muscles and rip muscles apart, mid muscle, and the importance of ART, right?
Yeah.
Now, how I explain it is when you shred a muscle, just say all the muscles are Randy, the vertical, horizontal, and perfect strands. Now, when you tear them, it pops apart. Do you think they grow back perfect aligned? Nope. No, during the healing process, how do they grow back? They come back all fucked up. So they bend over each other haphazardly.
Yeah.
You lose range of motion.
100%.
That's when you have the ability to potentially pop that muscle again.
All over again.
That's the importance of, and the process of ART is kneading out all the knots. Explain a little bit.
So yeah, ART or any other form of, whether it's Graston or instrument-assisted soft tissue work, or if it's just manual or ART or MET or all the different techniques that are out there. And that's, with me, I'm not one specific person. I'm not just an ART guy. I'm not just, I kind of put everything together into one treatment session. And so it's an amalgamation of 10 different things. But the common misconception is that we're breaking down scar tissue. You're not breaking down scar tissue. It's not what that happens. If you get after it early, like right after the injury hurts, so what you're doing is, I tell people it's like spaghetti. Same thing you said. It's nice straight lines of spaghetti. You're good to go. They're able to contract and relax amongst each other. You tear it, your body's laying down those collagen fibers again, and now that bowl of spaghetti has been kind of turned up a little bit. What we can do as a manual therapist is help those collagen fibers to reorganize a little bit better so they sit more normally compared to if you didn't touch them at all, and get them to move and stretch. So you're allowing the collagen fiber to sit properly, to get more of that contractility to it, so there's more elasticity later on, there's less likely of a chance to tear it. We're not going to break down scar tissue. That stuff's hard as a rock. It's not, even with Graston, you're not breaking down scar tissue. What you're doing is you're allowing the muscle to reorganize properly so that it actually sits like a normal piece of tissue. So it's important to get after it early. If you get somebody who's 6 years out from a muscle tear, I'm not sure how much change you're going to make to that scar tissue at that point in time. You might get it to relax a little bit. You might get the tissue around it to kind of absorb it a bit more and have a better contractility. But it's a little too late at that point in time.
That's why I always tell guys the importance of doing it. I have so much experience with it. And you hear a lot of guys, it's just time. Just give it a break and just go back. No, but you'll injure it again.
Yeah. And then the other there too is never, ever, 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 ever stretch a pulled or torn muscle. Ever.
Oh, I'm going to stretch it. I go, dude, you're pulling it back apart. That's the dumbest thing to do.
A pulled muscle is already an overstretched muscle. So now think of it as like a scab on your skin, right? You got that little scab on there. You pick it off. It takes forever. It's the same thing internally. You overstretch the muscle. It tore a little bit, some partial tearing. That scab on there has to come down. That scarring has to come down for it to heal. You try to stretch it again, you're pulling that scab off again, and start the process all over again.
When people blow the hamstrings apart, like me, right?
Yeah.
It's due to having just extremely tight hamstring, and it's when you really sprint, it's the overstride.
That's what does it.
You're stretching longer.
It's always an overstretch.
It's always, but people don't realize is this. I blow my hamstrings apart many times. Is when you fucking overstride because you're gassing it, and that if they now think about it, is where they blow it apart. Is when they're reaching far. Bop! It's not the contracting.
As soon as the heel strike or the toe strike hits.
But you're running so fast for them, whoever it is.
You have no idea.
You don't know when it happens, but I know when it happens. When I reached out, blink, and it fucking
always
blows.
The overstretch. Guys that tear their pecs benching. Does it ever happen at the top end of the bench? Never. It's the bottom end, that overstretch. It's over the muscles.
The overstretch.
Stretch past it's
because everyone has a certain limitation. Some people are just built to bench. Yeah. Their physiques, I could tell. You're
shorter lever arms. They got shorter arms.
Bigger barrelly chest.
Humerus, everything.
Me, I was never a good bencher. I have slightly longer arms. I'm not an overly big person, so it's an overstretch. That's why dumbbells you don't get hurt with as often. You're going past your limitations, thinking the bars touch my chest. Brink. You blow apart your fucking pec.
We talked about that, I think, even online briefly, the bar path. With a barbell, you're trapped. If you got like a little niggling injury in your shoulder, your wrist can't quite move the right way, you're stuck in the bar path with a barbell. Dumbbell, you can adjust your wrist a bit, adjust your elbow, change the arm position, change the angle a little bit, but you're still able to move the weight to where your body's comfortable with it. Closer grip, elbow positioning, all those can change with the dumbbell. I have never seen a patient come to me with a torn pec from doing dumbbell work.
Now you have so much experience, obviously. How many pec tears are correlated to the bench press?
Oh, it's almost always.
Always. So I know it's always.
The only two, and I work with some contact sports, so obviously playing rugby for so long, I got a lot of rugby friends, but it's that turnstile tackle, but again, the overstretch.
Yes, that happens.
But every other pec tear I get is from bench press. Yeah.
Anyways, we got to close this up now.
Yeah, sweet. Awesome.
That was good. Thank you, John.
Yeah.
Always a pleasure. Educating to me, educating for everyone, and we'll do it again soon.